Hi, my name's Catherine, and welcome to this corner of my bedroom floor. I haven't finished the wall of photos behind me, and I'm not going to show you any higher. So just live with the mystery of what else I have on here. Um, in this video, I'm going to be, just rating, reviewing some of the Doctor Who books I've read, because I've read a few, and it was nice. I mean, it was nice to like collect all my thoughts together about them. So, the first book I'm going to talk about is Deep Blue by Mark Morris. It features the fifth. There's a lot of characters. Okay, there's Fifth Doctor Tegan, Turlough, Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart, Mike Yates, and Sergeant Benton or John Benton. It's set in England in the 70s. Small seaside town called Tabor Sands. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I really liked the alien enemy things that we're introduced to in the story, which are the Zoranti. I think Morris wrote them in a way that was like genuinely frightening in some points. And I really appreciate sort of how he wrote about like the violence they enacted and that like the violence they inspired, because it was vivid but not in a way that was like overly gruesome or like gratuitous. So that was like kind of like a nice change, because some other books I've read, which I will get into later, um it was really nice to see how he portrayed some of the characters. Like Tegan is starting to show signs of wanting to sort of settle down in a life that doesn't have the Doctor in it, and you can see like Yakes being like kind of disillusioned within Unit, which I did appreciate because I love him. Anyway, so yeah, 4 out of 5 stars for Deep Blue. Okay, so the next 8 stories, it sounds a lot, but I'll probably go through them pretty quickly. Is from a collection called Time Trips. You can get it both as like a hard copy and as an ebook. Um, and I am going to go through all of them individually because I do believe you can access each story individually, and there are some that I would say are worth just reading, even if you don't find the other ones particularly interesting. But I do, as a collection, it's like a good, solid collection. The first story is The Death Pit by A.L. Kennedy, which features the Fourth Doctor in a golf resort, which is interesting. I don't really know that much about golf or golf resorts, and the story didn't really tell me, which I don't know how I feel about, because it's like I'm glad I didn't really learn anything new, but also surely it could have been valuable. Anyway, so Dr. lands in a golf resort. I gave the story 3 out of 5 stars. I like that the story opens with someone being eaten by one of those golf sand pits, which I did learn was called a bunker. I guess I did learn something. Anyway, and as a general rule, I really liked Kennedy's writing style. However, there were some elements of the story that felt kind of like clunky, I guess. Like it felt oddly disjointed, and like there was stuff in there that made it feel unfinished. Like if you took certain elements out, it would not have affected the story at all. It would have just kept being the strange, fun story it was before. In some ways, the plot was actually the weakest point of the story. So I gave, yeah, 3 out of 5 stars. Wasn't bad, wasn't fantastic. The next story in the collection is Into the Nowhere by Jenny Colgan. I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It follows the 11th Doctor and Clara as they explore an alien planet, which neither the Doctor nor the TARDIS knows the name of. I don't have anything particularly exciting to say about it, except there were some sweet moments. It was like an alright story. It hit all the right beats I think it was supposed to. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of these stories can actually be summed up by saying, yeah, it was sweet. So the next one is Keeping Up with the Joneses by Nick Hockway. I actually gave this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. I loved it. It begins with the 10th Doctor and the TARDIS being caught in like a temporal mine, which is which it says is a relic of the Time War, which is fun. There's a lot I loved about the story, obviously, but particularly I really liked how Harkaway wrote from the Doctor's perspective. He's kind of like stream of consciousness ranting style that I actually really liked, and it felt very natural, and he didn't use it for the other characters, so it felt very unique. So like sometimes like it would switch perspectives and like you'd immediately know. You could tell it was the Doctor's perspective because of the way he wrote, even if he didn't immediately say it. So yeah, no, good story. If you don't read anything else from this collection, I would really recommend you read Keeping Up with the Joneses. It's a fantastical tale. I would tell someone to read it. I would tell someone to read it, even if they didn't like the 10th Doctor. I would tell them to read it. The next story is Salt of the Earth by Trudy Canavan, which features the 3rd Doctor and Jo Grant. It follows. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It follows the two of them in the outback while they investigate people being turned into salt statues. Yeah, it is really sweet. You start the story in a dog's perspective, which took me an embarrassingly long time to figure out. And for me personally, it's always nice to read something good that's like set in Australia, because maybe I'm just traumatized from high school, but there's some dodgy stuff. There's some really dodgy stuff that people praise because it's Australian, and this is not one of those things. Like, it's good. 3.5 out of 5 stars. That's good. Okay, so the next story, not great. Handful of Stardust by Jake Arnott. Gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars, which isn't like really bad, but it's definitely the book, like the collection's weakest point. It features the 6th Doctor and Perry, and it's not like I don't have a problem with either of them. I really like Perry actually, but the story just wasn't my cup of tea, and like parts of the narrative felt like awkward, and there was like a couple of like really big jumps, and I was just really confused like how we got there. So yeah, I wouldn't read it again. So yeah, okay. So the next story is The Bog Warrior. Why can I not say that word? The Bog Warrior by Cecilia Ahern, or Ahern. It follows the 10th Doctor as he hopes to find somewhere peaceful for an adventure, but it turns out he's in the middle of a Cinderella retelling, which, I mean, he doesn't know, but we know. I know. And I really loved that. I mean, like, it's Cinderella plus the Doctor plus bog people come to life plus revolution. Like, what is there not to like? And there's also a bog man named Mossy, and I just love that. I gave it 4 out of 5. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I love it. The next story is The Loneliness of the Long Distance Time Traveller by Joanne Harris, which features the 3rd Doctor. I also gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Features a 3rd Doctor on the brink of death after fighting the Spider Queen of Metropolis 3. Okay. He finds himself in a strange little town where every day is the same, no one has a name, and no one is allowed to say the word death. It's a great premise and really interesting premise, and Harris executes it wonderfully. Like, really, it's good, and it has this gorgeous bittersweet ending that like made me like messed up a little bit. I didn't cry. it didn't connect with it quite enough to cry, but like I could have, like, like if I'd been having a little bit of a rougher day, who knows? Maybe I would have cried. And the last story is The Antihero by Stella Duffy. Now, this is a very biased review on my part because it stars the 2nd Doctor, Jamie and Zoe, which is my favourite trio. I love them. I love Jamie as well. I am in love with Jamie McCrimmon. I just, like, fun fact, I am in love with that man. Okay, so it starts off with, literally, it starts off with Tu and Zoe complaining about Jamie's bagpipe skills, which, incredible. And the TARDIS lands them in Alexandria, where they enter this big impressive museum and become enchanted by the muses. And I'm such a sucker for ancient history. I love history. I am a history bitch. We love history in this corner of my bedroom, right? That is the end of the Time Trips books. So yeah, moving on. Okay, so I couldn't rate this, but I found it and I forgot I had it, so I just felt the need to share it. It's the Ice Warriors novelization, and I don't know, I felt weird about rating it, but also, like, I did love it, so I know, most because I love the episode and I love Jamie, so I'm going to love a lot of the things he's in. I cannot say all because of a book I'm bringing up later that just, oh my god, I hate it so much. Anyway, we have The Stone Rose by Jacqueline Rayner. As you can see, it features the 10th Doctor and Rose. Mickey finds a statue of Rose in the British Museum, and chaos ensues. It's a fun, light read. There's lots of Rose Doctor banter, and it is kind of slow at the beginning, but like I did enjoy it. So 3 out of 5 stars. Next. Didn't work at all. Next we have The Many Hands by Dale Smith, and it's set in Edinburgh in 1759. There's people coming back to life. Lots of hands, as suggested by the title. I also gave it an extra half star solely because it has Martha Jones in it, and I'm in love with that woman. And, you know, easy read, exciting plot, 3.5 stars. Next up, we have The Krillitane Storm by Christopher Cooper. Features the 10th Doctor, as you can see. People are disappearing. The city is under intense curfew. There's lots of superstition. My copy is so fucked up. Like, I don't know how it got this much damage. Like, it's a second-hand book, but like still, she's been through the ringer. She's not a great book. Like, I gave her 2.5 out of 5 stars. But yeah, it's just bleh. It's a pretty bleh book. Next up, we have The Glamour Chase by Gary Russell. Now, I couldn't think of a description that was better than the one on Goodreads, so I am going to steal that. An ancient spaceship and deadly illusions force the Doctor and Amy to doubt reality itself. I don't know whether it's just like a product of the Moffat era where everything was a little convoluted, but like a good chunk of the books I've read from this era are just confusing as fuck and for no reason. Like, why are they this confusing? Why is there this much going on that I don't understand? Who knows? Once I got my head around it, I did enjoy it, but yeah, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Nothing special. The next book is The Silent Stars Go By Dan Abnett. Now, if you like the 11 Amy Rory era of Doctor Who, you will like this book more than I did, I think. There's some cool stuff going on. It sort of centers around this colony of people called Morphins, and every year for the past few years, their winters have gotten harsher and harsher and harsher, and they're finding it a lot harder to harvest things how they're supposed to, and people have been going missing. So when the 3 strangers show up, there's some tension. There's some stuff going on. There's for me reading this, it was a surprise reveal. So I won't say it, but there are other covers that sort of show it. But again, not gonna say it. But there's a couple of twists in there. It's it's alright. It just wasn't really my cup of tea. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Okay. The next book is Combat Rock by Mick Lewis. And I hate it with my entire being, my whole chest. This is a quote from @timespace on tumblr.com. Instant block for anyone who says they like Combat Rock. And I agree wholeheartedly with that statement. It's most of my hatred from this, I think, comes from the fact that I received no warning. In fact, the first little bit, don't know how it managed it, but it lulled me into a false sense of security. Like the first little bit, that's possibly my fault for not looking at the cover properly, but I digress. I'm going to keep going. There's gratuitous violence, extreme mistreatment, violence against and degradation of sex workers, cannibalism, and a lot more that I have blocked out. There's also a lot of girl on girl violence, both physical and metaphorical, and in this corner, in my heart, in this house, we do not stand for girl on girl violence. It's dumb, and I hate it, especially when it's been written into a book by a male author. This book literally reads like one of those torture porn horror movies from the early 2000s. And the only thing that makes me feel slightly better is I think it's like in there somewhere. There's like kind of some like interesting discussions about like the effects of colonization on like cultures and how cultures interact with each other under this new like umbrella of colonization, which I thought was interesting, but is going to be flawed because this white man was writing it. Actually, at least I think he's white. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's white. So the next and final book I'm going to be talking about in this video is Fear of the Dark by Trevor Baxendale. Now, I would lay down my life for this book. It follows the Fifth Doctor, Nyssa, and Tegan before, as, but mostly after, they land on the ruined planet of Akoshamon. I can never say that name. But yeah, we get introduced to this small, like, independent, vaguely pirate-like mining group as they're trying to find something valuable on the barren rock that is Akoshamon. It doesn't feel rushed, it doesn't feel slow, there's like more character-driven moments, there's more plot-driven moments, there's moments with both, and that, I know, I'm probably describing this book as like the bare minimum, but I swear, I love this book. Again, I would lay down my life for this book. And it's Fear of the Dark is the book that introduced me to the Fifth Doctor, and it's also the piece of media that made me fall in love with him, and also his era, but mostly him, and I will probably talk about that at a later date. Also really love the way that Baxendale brought Akoshamon to life, and he made it feel like a character in its own right, It was a menacing and sinister presence as well as just a setting. And again, I would lay down my life for this book. I would die for this book. This book is a masterpiece. Like, I literally care about this book so much, and if you are mean to it, I will cry. I will cry if you're mean to this book. Okay, so that is my review of the books. I'm probably gonna make a second one. Because I have a lot, and I need to bully myself into reading again, and I'm going to do that by reading Doctor Who books. If you can hear thuds, it's me dropping the books back into a pile. But yeah, thanks for watching if you did. Feel free to like, even dislike if you really want. I mean, if you really hate this that much, this in my opinions that much, sure, dislike the video. Comment some book recommendations. They can be Doctor Who related, they can be not Doctor Who related. I just need a way of bullying myself into reading again. And, subscribe to my channel. Yeah, I'll see you again sometime. I don't know when. I haven't thought that far ahead. But, yeah.